Hello everyone. Welcome to dev stream number, whatever number we're on, +1.
Lots.
Welcome on this wonderful evening. Today is the good day of gaming, not desktop. Since I'm not streaming alone, I'm here with Arthur today.
Hello everyone.
And we've got the lovely airport from last time up. And we'll be answering some questions, whatever you have for us today.
We got video.
Yes.
There we go. I see it. Yeah, so how's everybody doing? It's amazing what we were on about a month ago. And yeah, just over a month ago, I guess. It's amazing. Lots has changed in the world. Hopefully everybody's doing okay. Still enjoying the game. Hopefully giving you something to take your mind off of what is going on in the world. I will say it's been a little distracting for us. We've had, seems like everybody's, even though we all work from home and are lucky in that regard, we've all been kind of taken aback. But anyway, today we'll be playing the same airport that we typically play. Josh has been nursing this one along. And if you want to play this airport, it's up on the workshop. And we link to it in the news posts on Steam. And we're on YouTube, Steam, and Twitch, and we'll take questions on Discord too. If you guys have any questions for us at all, just don't hesitate to say what you're thinking, and we'll do the same.
I see a lot of known names already on YouTube.
Yeah.
Love to see you all, guys.
Yeah, it is. It's good to see everyone.
So before the first questions come in, I'm gonna, I said last time, let's do the grants, and I'm gonna finish those today, hopefully. Still got a couple of investment grants to do, but those are pretty much just waiting for us now. But some airport efficiency grants to do.
I'm just interested to see how many fires we get going.
I think it's still disabled. May actually enable it by now, since we pretty much just got everything back on track. Let's enable it for some time.
Oop, I gotta get live chat on, otherwise I get everything out of order. Yeah, hopefully everybody's at home. Hopefully everybody's still got their jobs though. We're still at home. Yeah, I don't know if you can get me quieter, but we could definitely turn Joshua up. It's hard to quiet me.
Sure, no problem. Game sound may be off for a second. Let's get Arthur down some. And for me, I'll have to go to the sound settings. Probably my mic probably went down again.
Is that any better? SimAirport LP on YouTube says, absolutely love the instant build option you added. Glad to hear it. It's something we've had in dev for a long time, but it's never worked all that well in development. We had it running most of the routines so that we could test stuff and just do it without movement. So it was nice to get that polished up and out there. It's funny what that experience it changes the experience drastically. It's interesting. The new game actually has has mostly instant build. Most of the stuff you put down is it's ready to go right away. Everything still we simulate a lot more, um, or not more, but equivalent amount. But it's interesting where the feel of the game is drastically different when you plop things instantly. Um, and that's part of what the impetus was behind us getting it out there quick. Hello, my wife, she works from home. She actually does some web stuff. Uh, so she kind of is part-time on that, and then she takes care of our two kids, which really, I mean, she works as much or more than I do. So they're doing okay, but honestly, the toughest thing is with two little kids, you take for granted things like going to the park or just even them going over to a friend's house and being able to run their energy off when they're 1.5 and 2.5 years old, and even the time in the car is helpful at them seeing the world and just like burning some of that energy off. They're getting a little stir crazy. And honestly, I don't think they've left the house now in about 4 weeks. I've been watching the situation pretty close, and my wife thought I was crazy at first, but now all our friends are doing the same thing. But so I mean, we're doing fine. It's just yeah, it's quite honestly, it's the anxiety from it all is something else. It really, I mean, I guess we've none of us have probably ever experienced this kind of thing, but um, it is it. Our productivity is down as a team, and we already work from home. Um, so yeah, it is it's beyond fathom. Um, but yeah, as a family, we're doing well. The team is doing pretty good too. Michael was ill for about 2 weeks. He's feeling good. Joshua, you weren't feeling real great there for about a week, um, but you weren't quite as bad as Michael.
Yeah, not too bad. It wasn't different. It was definitely I was definitely down, but not too much.
Yeah, just a cold or something. I've been feeling off, but I suspect it is just kind of the anxiety. Yeah, it is. And I think it would be even tougher if our kids were in school or something, because it'd be a dramatic change. For us, it's fairly business as usual. It's just a matter of kind of getting our head around it. But Pierre Board on YouTube says, just to say, SimAirport's really nice to have fun during lockdown. I'm glad to hear that. I've been wanting to stream. We were hoping to get this default patch out last week. I've been wanting to stream because it's kind of the connection we share with you guys. It's honestly really helpful, especially in a time like this where I'm not sure I've talked to anybody outside my household other than instant message in quite a while. um, and just to see you guys in here is really great. So I'm glad to hear that, and likewise, uh, appreciate you guys being here for us too.
By the way, I should be a bit louder now. Let me know if that's good like it is now. Otherwise I have to do some magic. And just to say, like I said, I wanted to do the government grants, and the grants for which one is it? Airport efficiencies are pretty easy actually. Just after finishing the no lost passengers, the no delays and maximum throughput instantly finished. So we're pretty much done with all grants except for the investment stuff.
Let's see, Allo on YouTube. Could we get one-way pass to airside? Is that moddable somehow? Um, yeah. So we talked about this. It's probably not. I mean, technically, it's probably doable, but not realistically with a mod. Um,
One-way path on the other side?
yeah, so it would require basically a boarding, like an object, to go on the interior side of the gate that only accepts the arrivals. Basically, just a divider so that departing passengers go in on one side and arriving passengers come out on the other, so that then you could control their pass from that point forward with normal one-way objects.
Okay.
Um, I forget what we looked at this. I forget if this required another bit in the bit mask and the reachability graph, which would be untenable. We're already pushing the limits on the on how much work that algorithm does. So I don't have a good answer. I'd have to sit down and go through that logic again. I don't know if it requires another type bit or not, Joshua.
I'd have to check first too. I think we talked about it at some point, and one
It was
conclusion
on.
was that we could do it as a placeable.
Yeah, and for some reason I think it could just work
By the way,
without adding a bit.
it's pretty interesting. By the way, I've pretty much done something similar with the remote bus pickup. If you place two doors for the remote bus pickup, it actually has one door that is an entrance only and one door that's an exit only. And you can completely separate those two streams.
Okay, so which means that unless you've missed something logic wise, that it's totally doable with a placeable.
Yeah,
Um,
it's just an extension to the despawn task and the get off gate task.
and there are no holes in the logic, we don't think.
Well, the remote bus pickup door selection so that one is entrance only, one is exit only has been working pretty long. The biggest issue with that one was that the error was sometimes doing funky stuff because my vector math was off.
Cool. So it should be doable as is with the remote gates then, and then I'm gonna write it down to look at if it is super simple, then yeah, kid in a candy store, then why not?
So that's why I asked, by the way. Alo didn't mean that topic, he meant another topic. He just clarified.
Gotcha. I'm not like so airside buses. Uh, I don't totally follow, to be honest. Um, you asked about the train track avoidance penalty. Is that did that get in? I know you were looking at the crosswalk too, but I think is it
Crosswalk is
still
good, but the light rail train not yet.
okay?
I checked on it and it should be pretty easy to implement. I think there was even some code back sometime that had implemented something like that, but it was probably bugged or some other stuff happened to it, so it was
I,
disabled.
yeah, I think what happens is it causes long path expansions when the only path is across the track, and so we need some way to detect dynamically whether it should get highly penalized or not. Otherwise, if it gets highly penalized, then what's going to happen is the path will explore everything to the left of the track, and it'll explore that until it's to exhaustion before it'll try crossing the track. You follow?
Yeah.
So we'd need to like dynamically detect. I am noting this one as well. So there's also one we're aware of. It's on the roadmap to get fixed. Is a similar pathfinding issue with vehicles that's been driving me insane. Every time we stream, I see it occur, and it just bugs me. I
Where
just
it's
saw it.
going, yeah, where it's going to the right, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. can you make a crosswalk on the track? Well, that's an interesting point, Elo. So crosswalks don't actually work by saying walk over me. This is easier. But actually in the exact reverse. So a street is a penalty, and packs try to avoid the street. But the LRT track is not a penalty, so the packs don't try to avoid it. And a crosswalk is just like having no penalty at a specific spot. So the crosswalk doesn't add to the ability to the packs to walk over it, but just removes the penalty of the road.
It's actually a very good idea. So one good solution here would be the default map starts with one crosswalk over the LRT, and it requires, like, we put in a validation in that does not let you delete that crosswalk unless you've added another one somewhere else across the track, basically guaranteeing that there is an optimal route to cross the track so that the pathfinding expansion will never be awful. You follow?
Yeah, that plus was what Alo just wrote. So we'd penalize the track and then force
Enforce it.
enforce at least one crosswalk over it.
Yeah. And then that would work, and it's a pretty elegant fix. I was never on your channel. Why not replace it? If as soon as we do that, though, then we have the same question, the same problem, but on level 2. I mean, because we have multiple floors, it's going to be the same issue regardless, really, where you put it, unless we put it on like level 3 or something. Which actually it was something we gave consideration to. I wouldn't mind, like, this is where my mind goes. I wouldn't mind if the train stopped for passengers crossing, but yeah, I mean, that could pretty quickly snowball effect into a pretty backed up airport. Baby steps. We get crosswalks working across the train tracks, and I think that's a pretty elegant solution.
By the way, can you note another issue?
Yes, sir.
Some passengers are stuck in the offices over here, and I'm not quite sure why. They say they are still in the flee from fire task, but it's just unable to move. So unable MMC safety.
Okay.
KGP 2005 over on Twitch asked, why does the bus and taxis goes in and out on the road? That's pretty much what we just talked about a couple of minutes ago. It's an annoying bug with the way vehicles currently drive.
Yeah, it's a pathfinding heuristic bug.
It's
And
pretty much a talking point on every stream until we fix it.
it's been driving us nuts for like 3, 4, 5 months. Yeah, it's on the roadmap to be fixed. It's something we'll get fixed this cycle within the next couple of weeks, even.
Ah, perfect. Next investment part is finished too. We don't have loans, so we have to wait for 7 days. Guess that one isn't going to finish today.
Cool. I got all those noted.
Perfect.
Shuttle bus. Okay. Simisio LP. Apologies if I'm butchering that. It'd be cool to have shuttle bus between the terminals. It's something I always thought would be super cool too. I've kind of given up on the idea. It's doable, but the pathfinding to handle it it's tough. And when the agents have really short life cycles like we have in SimAirport, there's not a lot of margin for error to like load balance them. And the way like they have to calculate their path in advance, they need to basically estimate how many people are going to be there versus the time it'll take them to walk. And what sounds fairly simple is basically like 10 times as hard to do as escalators to get it right at least. Something I've always really wanted to do, but I realistically probably not going to do it. Hubbit, any news on upper floor overhangs? Yeah, so Joshua, you and I discussed it a little bit, and we basically have a plan going for what this is going to look like. And I don't know, have you started on code first at all?
No, I'm pretty much working on remote gate control, gate control in overall, and
Gotcha.
I like I actually was planning to get it out on Friday with Edge deploy, but I ran into an interesting issue. So we didn't talk about how we want to restructure gate control, but it should be with the next update once it's out. It will be actually pretty strong. Currently, you can only set gate control for one setting, the closure time for all gates. And we discussed if we couldn't make some sort of policy that you could apply to specific gates. And the issue on that point was that what if a user selects on the policy to be applied to a specific letter, let's say B, but adds another concern, I named them, adds another concern for letter, let's say C. I first made it so it's an AND, so it has to apply to all concerns. Only if it's a gate that is of letter B and C, it would work, but that's not possible. So what I tried to do then was check if we could use OR, but then we actually have to check some further things, like if you have letter B and C, and the gate applies to one of those, then that's fine. But if you have another concern, let's say size large, now we have to make sure that any large gate that is not B or C isn't also applying over that policy, or isn't
It should
also
just be a
set over that
drop
policy.
down. It should just be a drop down.
Define dropdown.
So you create the policy and you name it, and then a drop down on the gate to be able to pick which policy it uses, or if it uses. So it either uses default or it uses one of the existing policies.
Yeah, that's possible too.
I thought that's what we had decided on, but it's just simpler. Otherwise, anytime we used to do this a lot for in a prior lifetime, I did some affiliate stuff, and we made software to track affiliate earnings, and all these commission structures would be different, and we would have all these hierarchical rules for configuring the commission structure based on hierarchy of what the closest match was, and it was a disaster basically. Ever since then, I've always tried to avoid hierarchical interfaces. It just we're talking about users on that application that would be paid 50, 60 grand a year to work on this, to use this software, and they struggled with it in a game. It's a tough sell to me. To get to the point though of the gate policy, it's basically to let you set closing time per gate, so that you can have remote gates or large gates have their gate closing be earlier or later versus other gates. It's really what we're after, and basically we came to the conclusion if we're going to make that work, might as well let you set it per gate, and just a matter of figuring out what the best UI is for that. I think I saw one on, was it Twitch? Where did I see?
There's definitely one on Twitch.
For some reason my chat on Twitch is kind of frozen up.
If you want, I can read out the question.
Yeah.
So KGP again asked, is there a ratio, for example, what passengers what before they take off and after landing, question mark? Like passengers maybe want more shopping and like that before takeoff and only toilet after. The message isn't the best format for a question, but I think the base of it is there any ratio or is there any graph or information on what passengers do before and after or for arrival and departure?
Okay, so there isn't. I think there's a good FAQ that.
So basically, their needs. Is there any specific point on arrival or departure for their needs, or is there any difference?
So the only difference is what needs they have and the starting values. I just sent you a link. It may seem a little bit off topic, but I linked, and I'll post it on YouTube as well, just so that. So this is an old thread. I don't know how old. About a little under a year. On the number 4 question here, and I found this via the FAQ. It kind of explained how the needs work and how the passenger AI works. Basically, though, the passengers they're gonna do whatever the most efficient thing is based on their current need values. So like they're very opportunistic. If they can service a need something that they need fairly good amount, like it's not critically urgent, but they need to use the bathroom and they're near a bathroom, the bathroom's near their life cycle goal, and there's no line. And even if they don't have to urinate really badly, they'll still go and do so because they're opportunistic. It can also be a little frustrating because they're very opportunistic. They'll grab a bite to eat if the line is short and they're fairly hungry, even if their aircraft's going to board fairly soon. That's why it's important to keep all those services near the gates. And they factor in distance and distance back to their gate, all that kind of stuff. It really comes down to making sure their information need is high and keeping them making sure they're able to service their stuff as near to their goal as you can. There is no ratio. We do have the defaults when they land are randomized, and the randomized values are not a non-normal distribution, I believe, and they do vary slightly between arrivals and departures. I don't know if that directly answers your question. Hopefully it gives you some good info. That thread gets into, and it's not probably the most verbose explanation I've given before, but pretty solid understanding of how the AI works, hopefully.
KGP just said, I've noticed that not many are shopping in stores and cafes after they have landed, so arrivals. Most of them just use toilets and want to get their baggage.
Yeah, so that's not super surprising. At one point, we've kind of teeter-tottered on that. At one point, we had the agents have all of their needs and just randomize the value. We now, many of their rivals don't, maybe even all, don't have shopping need. Part of the reason for that is performance is to some degree at least, is the longer those arrivals stay in your airport, the higher your what we call the high water mark will be in terms of the number of passengers in your airport. And so we do everything we can without losing like the quote unquote flavor to get those passengers, help guide them towards despawn fairly quick. Because what you don't want is if those passengers are staying in your airport for 8 hours after they arrive, you're going to end up with 8 hours worth of passengers in your airport at once. And but we've seen maps before with 60, 70,000 plus agents in it at once, and some computers can run that pretty okay. Not great, but it's doable. In the grand scheme, though, what we try to do is reduce the total life cycle time of the agents, because what we've seen is basically that you want to build bigger and bigger, and to allow that and make it functional, it essentially means we want to keep the total agent count down without sacrificing any simulation. And that, I mean, one thing we could do is just fake it. And that's just kind of against I'm just not willing to fake it. The number of passengers you see is exactly how many are in your airport. And we could give you some slide or something and cheat, but it's just not in my vocabulary. So that is though why you will see that some agents are going to, like, especially arrivals, they tend to have less of the needs. It just allows their AI to run faster.
I'm also not really sure about you guys, but I'm usually trying to get out of the airport as fast as possible.
I've already waited long enough on the plane to get off of it. Yeah, exactly.
No need to stay in the airport any minute longer than needed. You've already stayed in the airport, on the departure airport, and in the plane. I guess that's enough air travel at once.
The worst part is, the last 30 minutes you're on that plane, and it's just like, I sit there every time, I'm like, God, we have to be getting off this airplane in the least efficient way possible. And it basically is, from everything I've read. But yeah, I have it down. I can get out of the Las Vegas McCarran Airport from most of the gates that I end up arriving. I can get outside in less than 8 minutes once I've stepped foot off the aircraft. I mean, I'm hustling. It's fairly quick.
I could probably get out, depending on which gate in Hanover. Depending on the gate, I could probably get out in like 60 seconds. Ooh, but Hanover is really small. It has a really big northern runway, which could technically handle A380s even. But I think Hanover hasn't seen a 747 in a long time or anything big.
Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot flying. There's probably very, very few flying right now.
Yeah, it's mostly freight now.
Yeah, I've seen the air traffic numbers are way down.
Also, I don't know who exactly wrote it, but another really lovely idea, that's actually how Hanover is built up too, is having a remote gate pickup on the same spot as some gates. So we already allowed having the road on the gates, And another improvement could be a gate that has is a bit set back. Maybe with it has less space, so an extra large gate doesn't fit an extra large plane, only a large plane, but it is set back far enough to have a bus gate or two in front of it. So you had like a bridge over the road and the bus gate, and only then the jetway starts.
That does happen.
Yeah,
In
Hanover is completely built up that way. You have really big, long glass tubes, which look really, really great, especially if you arrive. They're pretty long and they span over some type of like floor structure. It's a mix of bus gates and other space to just put airport vehicles. Then an usual big road, and only then starts the gate with the fully extended finger.
Huh. So
Siminicio just wrote Hanover gets 747 freighters currently. Sorry, what did you want to say?
I saw there were two things. I don't have the tracker open. You don't have roads on these though. On these gates on the B, you don't have roads underneath them.
On those ones, no, since A has the one road going up and down it, and so that's enough for A and west side of B, and B and the remote gates on R have the big road going down the middle of the taxiway, so that's
Gotcha.
enough. But having the option to build it, like what do we have here? It's a 767. The 767 could perfectly fine stand on a large gate, and then have enough space for like 1, 2, 3, maybe 3 buses queuing up over on the left side of it.
Yeah. So actually, on the A gates, there's one right here too. That bit mask for that road is messed up, where it's not connecting when it's facing away. It's
Yeah,
annoying.
it's already on the striker. I thought
It
we
is.
fixed it some time back, a long
I
time back
thought.
actually, but
I thought so too.
Hubbard just wrote it a couple of days ago on the Discord. Brought it back up because he found it on his airport too. But yeah, we're aware of it, and so we'll take care of that one too.
Cool. I saw. Let's see. Simiso. Man, I know I'm butchering. Sorry. Says on YouTube for remote gates, get them in an extra bus.
Remote
Can
gates
we
get
get
them
them an
extra
extra?
bus.
Can't you get them an extra bus?
Remote gates.
Yeah.
Remote gates have N buses on the gate side, but only one on the bus pickup side. Because currently only one bus pickup can be selected for each gate. What would be
Why can't it queue up more than one bus though?
well, it can on both ends, but the remote bus pickup just can only fit one bus.
But even if it only fits one, can it queue them up so that you could have 3 getting there at the same time?
Yes. So if a plane arrives on a small gate, I think the small gate can only take 2, but the larger gates definitely can take more. I think the extra large gate up to 5. They will all come in, all take passengers off at the same time, drive to the bus pickup, then one after each other drop them off. And new buses are coming in. The first one drives on, takes on passengers, but the next ones will wait.
They won't. When do they get queued?
Well, they are queued instantly, and they are waiting on the bus pickup, behind the bus pickup, on the road. They just won't drive onto the bus pickup until the first bus is finished loading.
Okay, so it does already queue them up.
Yeah.
And they'll drive there immediately. They just multiple can't fit on the pickup at once.
Yeah.
Is the only issue. So I guess to get, you mean the bus load, not the, why does a door connected to a sidewalk not work?
Are you mixing up questions at the moment?
Yes, I think I am.
Basically, for the remote gates, I think the best way to improve them may be adding several, being able to have more than one pickup assigned to one gate. But I'm not too sure if the code can handle it as is. I mean, multiple gate agent tests for one gate already work fine.
So yeah, no, for remote gates, get them an extra bus. And when you say them, after rereading it like 12 times now, sorry. I think what you're saying is get the pilots an extra bus. Is that right? Yeah, okay. And you did say that. Gotcha.
Ah. Yeah, pilots currently, flight crew in general, just board the first and then no extra bus for them.
And I mean, I guess that same thing. There's no reason that we can't adjust that timing and allow the crew to board while the plane is deplaning as well for regular gates too, huh? I mean, ignoring code side issues, logically speaking, that seems to make sense.
While
Is
deplaning?
What's that?
Well, while deplaning, the original crew is still on board, but that may actually be fine.
There may be some code intricacy there where we're checking the count or something. And we would need to change that approach a little bit, but generally speaking, it would make sense. But for whoever asked, like I think it was Aloe, maybe I think you guys are both saying very similar. Either that or I'm confused, but is the issue that the crew doesn't get there till too late, or is the issue that the crew it takes too long to get on board? A321 with 3-hour turn time on a remote gate gets delayed. And then so maybe you can answer this better, Joshua. I'm jumping around questions, sorry. But Aloe on YouTube. This is a different question. As for remote gates, why does a door connected to a sidewalk not work? Is it possible to make that happen? Then I could be more creative in my layouts.
So that's actually a point I've talked on the Discord about. On the Discord. So currently we only have two types of gates, remote and normal gates. Both gates have to have some connection to a terminal. Normal gates are connected via the jetway directly. They have to touch the terminal. Whereas the remote gates don't have to touch the terminal, but the remote bus pickup has to touch the terminal. And what I talked about on Discord with a couple of people, because it's a really interesting idea, is why not be able to have the door position of a gate also connect to a terminal if there's sidewalk in between? You got me?
There's no reason that can't work.
Well, previously we had one reason, which was passengers could not walk at all on the outside of in secure area, and we
Right.
never thought about this possibility, this even being possible. So it never occurred to us to implement it. But now, since the passengers can actually go out, which Green did stream a couple of weeks back, and with that update, it looked really, really well. All the passengers running out in his small little outside part. We can actually implement this pretty much now. And that way you can also make, sorry for cutting you off there, you can also make these really, really low cost airports where you have normal gates, like the S gates without stairs, and you have just a ground floor big hall that is the departure hall, and then you just have a bunch of crosswalks going out to the different gates. That's usually done by low cost airlines on their main airports.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean that should damn near just work. The issue was that the issue originally with doing that was that the passengers couldn't walk outside, but really that was easy to solve. It's the sector expansion, and that now that that's solved too, it's probably just a change to the validation.
Possibly, yes.
I mean, it should be less than. Yeah,
Well,
I mean, it's certainly less than a day's worth of work. There's no major reason that we would need to restrict it.
Yeah, it's just
think of one.
Currently, it's checking for a door specifically, so there has to be a door, and the check will need to be: is there a door or sidewalk? And if there is sidewalk, can the sidewalk be reached by the gate agent desk?
And really, it can just be the same logic that exists. It doesn't even need to check sidewalk or not. It just needs to check, can it be reached?
Yeah. Well, it needs to check if there's... It should still check if there's sidewalk, because that check is way simpler than any other check. So, is there a door? No. Is there sidewalk? No. Say you have to be connected to a terminal. If there's a door...
Gotcha. It checks it, door checks it. I gotcha.
Yeah. So, is there a door? No. Is there sidewalk? Yes. Can it be reached? It's just simpler forcing it out, saving on performance just a tiny bit.
Yeah, no, I forgot about the door check already exists. Okay, so I've got that added to the list. Okay. The smoking area change. Now you're making me want a cigarette here, Aloe. And that's not good, because I'm down to my last carton. I may end up having to leave the house here in the next 2 weeks. Okay, so I've got that written down. That should be fairly easy. There's no major core changes required. If anything, it's basically just another piece of the puzzle that we kind of didn't realize as other things have shaped up.
Specifically, since we back when we added being able to go outside on sidewalk in secure area, that's pretty much the one point that was missing on that link.
Right. Okay, so let's see. Okay, I was never on your channel. Says on YouTube. Idea: the crew takes an extra bus at the time when the plane lands, drive to the gate, drop off. The arriving crew takes the same bus back. That's an interesting and I think that the way this originally was implemented was closer to that. And you and I talked about this, and Joshua, and I explained. I remember you and I arguing about the efficiency, and at the time, though, we were talking about one bus being used for the passengers for arriving and deplaning, and I was explaining how anytime that the number of buses is over one, that's going to be a serial process instead of a parallel process, like the concurrency. But for crew,
For crew, it would actually be fine.
yeah, and it would probably always be more efficient. And that's not true.
No, it's
I don't
not.
think.
It would mostly be less efficient. It would. Yeah,
It
it
depends on
would.
the distances, really.
I think it does it, but because you always have one more bus driving. If you have just one bus with, let's say, 100 passengers and 5 crew members, then you have one bus coming in from the airplane and one bus going out to the airplane. So for every airplane only needing one bus, you already have 2 buses driving, or one bus
Yeah,
driving twice.
yeah, you're right. In some cases, it could be more efficient. The real question, though, is what problem are you trying to solve? I was never on your channel. Like, what's the problem that you're seeing? The the crew are getting on the first bus anyway. So what's the issue that you're seeing? Um,
So
to find a
basically currently how I think about it happening, um, the bus pretty much just has 2 compartments, one main big passenger compartment in the back and one small crew compartment in the front. And if you have ever had the chance to drive an airport bus, that's pretty much how they look like. Just that the crew compartment at the front is like 3 people, and not the whole flight crew usually. But the point is, the crew deboards as last from the airplane. If the so the passengers all deplane first, then the air crew is deplaning into that little space, and before anyone can go onto any bus, the new air crew has to get onto the first bus. So they are always the first one to board the plane.
That's how it works currently.
Yes.
So do the air crew always jump on? They just have to get onto the bus first. Is that right?
Yes.
They don't actually have to get to the airplane
No.
first. Okay, and I follow. You're basically saying the crew should end up on the plane long before they should have time to do
And that's
to
totally
do a
possible.
walk around and everything.
If we schedule
Do a
it,
full pre-flight.
if we schedule a second bus just when the plane arrives, that bus can come in, pick up the flight crew while another bus is already deplaning the passengers, and then just drives over to the plane, drops off the new flight crew, picks up the old flight crew, and drops them all off to the bus pickup.
Yeah, okay, so the crew is late. That causes delay. Hello, Scott Roth on YouTube. Simio LP. The crew is late. The 200 plus packs wait until the crew is in. That causes delay. Are you talking about remote gates specifically, or are you talking about all gates? Because what you're talking about is there's a distinction between what I was never on your channel is saying. He's talking more a logistical, like a realism issue, which I get. I also though, just from hearing it described out loud, talking about quite a few moving parts going on within pretty short amount of time, um, and using limited resources, which is, you know, you only have so many buses, you can only get one in there at a time. With these turnaround times, that becomes tight. So I don't know how much I'm swayed by the realism aspect. The delay aspect, though, I can is much more easily swayable in my mind. But I also don't think the crew should be getting there late. Wait for the crew before the bus leaves. What are your crew doing when they're getting there late? The crew should generally always be there. Their desire their desire to get there is stronger than the passengers at an earlier time. And so it's a little surprising if your crew isn't getting there already. It makes me think that you may have a layout issue or something.
That's
Because
actually what.
what's
Go ahead.
that?
That's usually what I'm seeing too. If the remote plane needs crew, the crew's usually waiting. Actually, way too long on the gate and just standing around, not doing anything. And if the bus dropped off all the passengers, the crew usually already boards.
Yeah, so the way it works right now is the passengers, their desire to get on, not if the crew's inbound is late. The inbound is late. If the inbound is late, the crew, their desire to get to the gate agent desk is stronger than the passenger's desire at any given point in time. So the crew's desire to get to the desk maxes out, last I looked, about 30 minutes earlier than the passenger's desire to get to the gate. And once that desire gets maxed out, that's the only thing they're going to care about, even if they're gonna pee themselves. They basically are going to disregard the bladder and get to the damn gate. So it makes me think, though, that you said it's a massive airport. I mean, really kind of have to see, but generally, if the crew is getting to the gate late, it typically means your bottleneck is somewhere earlier than that, or you've got your services pretty distant from the gate. The crew's always going to try to service themselves around the gate area, like if they need to use the bathroom or grab something to eat. So they should be stuck around that area to begin with. Not stuck, but they should be sticking around that area. Many airports have a crew terminal. They don't go to the normal gates. Honestly, probably not gonna. That's as we get into these like really lots of moving part areas, I get worried that it just is. Some of these are risky, especially like the turnaround stuff. The timing on this stuff has to be really right, or you can't get the rapid turnarounds with 200 plus flights a day.
A separate terminal just for crew would actually be faster in most cases, I guess. Especially if you have specific vehicles, like crew vehicles, just for crew. In any other case, shouldn't it may be slower. Like if we implement any other lifecycle stuff, it may slow down everything.
Yeah, I mean, just the added complexity.
Yeah, that for sure.
And then Scott Roth, I'm sorry, I don't totally follow about if the cruise inbound is late. Are you telling me if the inbound flight is late, is the crew for the outbound flight, are they starting to do something weird? That I could see that being a potential bug, but being familiar with that code, I thought we handled that. I thought it's all using greater than. Yeah, if you could tell us more about what you're seeing there, though. Yeah, I love talking about this kind of stuff. And it's the only way we can figure it out. Some of this stuff it's airport specific. That's what we set out to create, is this like really emergent behavior. And some of this is damn near intended, based on layout, and just sifting through it kind of requires this kind of dialogue. I know sometimes I wonder if maybe emergent behavior wasn't the optimal. It's kind of what I wanted. It was what I saw for the game from the start, though. So I don't know. Okay,
By the
so
way,
Alo earlier. Sorry.
before we continue, by the way, if you guys talk about cruise and inbound, outbound, let's just use arrival and departure, because that's pretty clear what an arrival and a departure crew is. Whereas inbound could be inbound to the airport or inbound from the flight. Like inbound from to depart or inbound coming with the plane to arrive. So let's use arrival and departure. That's always related to the airplane.
Yeah, and connecting, but crew don't connect, I think.
That would be pretty interesting. Oh yes, I have just arrived after a 10-hour flight from Munich to, let's say, New York. I think that's a bit less than 10 hours, but let's just say 10-hour flight. I've just arrived for a 10-hour flight. Let's connect to this other flight because we want to take it over and fly to Tokyo. Another 12 hours. I think after every
that
long...
doesn't only deadheading.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, sorry, Aloe. Where did it go? I saw it. I thought you had one. No, sorry, it was Hubbit. Hubbit asks, can we get roads without arrows for airside vehicles? And the only question I've got here is the fire trucks, they treat airside roads as the same as all other hangar vehicles, right? They ignore
Yes.
the one way?
On both, on air side and normal side. They just use the fastest way to get from from the spawn to wherever they have to go, which at some points looked actually funky, and we could actually see that last time we streamed with fire on. There were some fire trucks running down the main road and turning around the road ramp and just standing in the wrong way here. It's totally fine. They will turn around once everything is extinguished. But I think it's a bit more realistic to have emergency vehicles be able to drive in pretty much any direction.
Yeah, I'm all for it. And really, the main reason I asked was to know if there is any reason for us to display the arrows on the airside roads. We can, I believe we can calculate that they're airside, and we could just stop displaying the arrows.
It probably may need an update on the neighbors if you place them wrong, like if you place two nodes instead of, let's say you want to build a road from west to east, and you place one part to the north and one part to the south. Those two road pieces wouldn't correctly connect.
Just visually, though.
I bet there's already some configuration. People are already finding configuration with including arrows, which may not work because they have.
It's a good question. I mean, basically, this is
so like removing arrows may be a problem.
Yeah, it needs looked at regardless. Like, what purpose are those arrows serving right now? And they probably shouldn't be serving that purpose if they are serving one. And then if the answer is none, or we need to get the answer to none, and then let's remove them. Okay,
By the way,
I'm noting that. I've noted that one down.
Perfect. I've got something completely different. Our chef is named Funny Elevator. I just wanted to say thank you for everyone getting the freaking flyer pack, and thank you for all the great names that are being added. I've seen some really funny names in our API side.
Yeah, thank you very much. Really, it blew. I think it blew us both away. Just seeing how many of you guys, like literally minutes after the release went up, jumped on it. I really appreciate it. It's given us substantial headroom to be able to keep working on SimAirport. It's very, very much appreciated. Okay. Also, Alo mentioned after the smoking area change. So, yeah, where the hell did the smoking area change go? By that I mean, I assume you're meaning where are the smoking areas that we talked about? I like, I've wanted them so bad.
I think we talked about it, but never concretized it. As in, we never made it a fixed concept, and just loosely talked about it being possible.
Yeah, it's super, it's damn near trivial. It's just a
How
variable addition of a nicotine need and then a zone
do you really
that
want a new need
impacts
for it?
environment. It requires a new need. It's actually that's the simplest part though. It's just a ticker basically.
Just going up over time,
Yeah, and only on a very select few.
and then possibly a
You meant the
zone.
sidewalk. So what I've always wanted, I'm a smoker. I've always wanted a smoking area. When I used to travel a lot more, I would always fly through uh, certain airports where there was an indoor smoking area. I'll never forget flying into Indianapolis one night after just after the new terminal had opened in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I some guy comes up to me. I'm out on the sidewalk smoking a cigarette, and guy rides up to me on a Segway, a cop, and he tells me he's got to write me a ticket for smoking outside. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm outside smoking a cigarette. I think to this day they still. I ended up getting a big argument. I'm like, what is this state turning into? You can't smoke outside in a public area? Like that is unbelievable. But ever since then I've always well no, even before that I've always tried to fly through airports that have smoking areas. So I've personally always wanted to add a nicotine need. Um yeah, I mean like Memphis, I loved flying through Memphis because I there was a restaurant that I used to go to every time I flew through there. You could smoke in the restaurant. It was a barbecue place that especially as far as airports go, they had delicious food. And it was just, yeah, anytime I could, I would get long layovers through Memphis. It was a great experience compared to many other airports, at least.
On the topic of
Uh,
food,
yeah.
my roommate just made some food, and I haven't done dinner yet, so I'm getting hungry.
What are you having for dinner?
Uh, that will probably be decided on a quick basis after the stream looking into the refrigerator. And it's probably gonna be pizza.
Pizza.
Yeah.
Hey, we've been having a lot of pizza here too. Although I think we're getting on the low side at this point. We're gonna have to do another grocery order here soon, which is my favorite. It's terrible because it takes us 2 hours to wipe down the food with bleach and to clean it all off and yeah I want to say yeah Fort Worth do they allow smoking in the airport restaurants? And I'm guessing JF I think it was JFK. They used to have a smoking room that I'm guessing they got rid of. Yeah, so Habit, my ideal in my mind was that you just, unlike Indianapolis, who I still I'll never get over the fact that they've outlawed smoking in their outdoor area, like their drop off zone. I mean, it boggles my mind. But my assumption was always kind of that the nicotine need would never get very high, and the passengers would satisfy it when they get dropped off and when they when they're going to the pickup zones. It would make it. It would, yeah, to achieve max happiness. Yeah, I'm not opposed. I mean, that's a fact of life. In the U.S., it's a much lower percentage, probably, than in some countries. But yeah, I mean, perhaps we're positioned a little more G-rated than that. I don't know. It's kind of where my head has always been, though. Is that's how it is in real life. And yeah, so that we actually did have we do have an oxygen purifier thing, an object and art done to to make it reduce the environment impact of the zone. I could get on board with what you're saying, and really perhaps the best solution there is to, even if we did add nicotine, not have it count towards passenger satisfaction, and only have it count via boredom and frustration. That would be a good middle ground, where that way you could probably improve things a little bit for everyone with the smoking zone, but it wouldn't be a harm either without. At least not. Yeah. I am adding that because I've wanted it forever. I have. I'm sure I've been talking about it for over a year.
We definitely talked about it last stream.
We did?
Yeah, okay, maybe not last stream, but one of the last streams.
Yeah.
It's one of those topics that gets talked about often.
I always want to do more with alcohol too.
There's already bars, so that features in
But I
deeper.
wanted drunk. I wanted drunk passengers, and I also had the illness thing too. I even posted some screenshots of that on the Steam forum. That I guess is kind of all too true these days, unfortunately. Is there a smoking? I have not seen the smoking mod. I saw somebody else mention it above though.
Chick made a small, not smoking mod, but like smoking placeable ashtray or something like that. So people would go out and onto
It's a
the.
boredom.
Yeah, it's just for boredom.
Man,
I don't know.
That.
Chick is on, but I guess he can tell us what specific component he used.
I'm gonna go find it right now. Let's see.
Ah, yeah, he just used the cell phone charger component. So it removes.
Gotcha. Yeah, it makes sense.
It removes boredom for having people stand around it, but it just looks like a smoking ashtray, which makes perfectly sense. The behavior of a charger and an ashtray with the passengers around it are pretty similar.
Yeah, it's actually it's smart. So is it one big ass object, or is it just the signs?
I think it's one small object, like 1 by 1 cell or something like that. And
Oh, I see. It's probably
place
two objects. It's probably the signs and the ash.
more.
I see the ashtray, but I see the signs too.
Yeah, it's probably 2 then.
Well, build me one. I want to see.
I haven't got it installed. If you notice, we can
It should just be 2 clicks now, right? I thought our workshop status is on point these days.
It is 2 clicks, yes, to install it, but I'd have to reload the save.
Ah,
And possibly, yes, the whole game. Because there's no live reloading of mods currently.
gotcha.
That's actually a point on my stream list. Live reloading of mods. Which would especially help for marker placement. Because that's extremely hard currently. And the main issue is that reloading script mods is nearly impossible, except for when we do, compile them ourselves. Which is another point on my modding list. Just one higher on the priority. Martino 2
Yeah,
on
well,
Twitch.
it could be a little higher than you think too, because the code to achieve it can, one, it should make everyone's lives easier, but also it could be used for the new game too.
Live reloading placeables.
Of mods, placeables.
Well, placeables are the main point why we would want live reloading. Scripting is a nice
and
part too,
placeables are much more. That's much more achievable than the script aspect too. Should be in theory.
I haven't tested it yet. Possibly it's just replacing it, but like replacing all the code. You can only change the config, so technically it's just replacing the config on any object that is placed, or updating the config, possibly forcing it to update. The one issue is what if you work on it and suddenly the size changes.
Yeah, you lose the references. You basically need to serialize and deserialize.
So it's probably possible, but it will need some checks and some work, and it would probably only be useful for modders and not for new normal users, because it could definitely break stuff.
Well, there's no reason not to allow initial mod load. Like, you should be able to 2-click add a mod without restarting.
Yeah, that should be fine. Yeah.
And I think that use case alone warrants some time, because like I'd pay $10 right now if you could put a smoked area in 2 clicks.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Marino 2 over on Twitch just wrote, "Man, I haven't played this for too long." Guess it's time to play it some then?
Yeah, load it up. See what you can do.
So before I worked on SimAirport, it was usually one of those games that I love to play for a couple of days and then have it rest for some time and then play it a couple of days again. There's a bunch of, especially early access games, where that's usually the best way to play them. Just because changes happen over time and a lot of new stuff comes in and improvements come in. So looking at a bunch of games after a couple of months or a month can yield best results.
Yeah, it's like getting a whole new game every 6 months or so. Yeah, I mean it can be so drastically different.
Also, just to say, and on this last update, on yesterday's update, we added a bunch of legacy stuff. Well, we didn't add it, but we made sure that legacy stuff is supported, which means you can possibly load pretty much any save you did. Like, even if you played this game in 2017, it's highly likely that your save will load again.
Even the queue, you got the queue ones fixed?
Yeah.
Wow.
So you
can pick any save off the workshop and
it's possible that pretty much any save will work. I know of some issues. For example, on a couple of versions, zones are missing, which I didn't look further because if the zone is missing, you can replace it. That's not the big issue.
Yeah.
It's just. Oh, actually, never mind. The zone issue was actually pretty easy. I fixed that one. I can remember now.
So basically, we got rid of so there's no invalidated. Used to be that saves prior to June 2017, maybe July 2017, were invalidated, but that Joshua was looking at it and apparently it's got that resolved. So even like the oldest saves.
So to be completely fair, there's possibly still some issues on. So like the oldest of oldest may not perfectly load, but pretty much whatever you take now should work fine. If you have any where it doesn't work fine, just let us know.
And that UI is. We just fixed this UI in the new game.
The staff schedule.
Yeah, that drop down is terrible. Like, talk about a tiny ass click target. It's frustrating. I get like a little bit of rage just seeing it. I mean, it's hard enough to see the drop down and we know exactly where it is, but the click target is tiny.
I mean, the click target seems fine here. It's the whole button.
No, I'm talking about on the drop down. So like it's not clear to a new player that for one it shouldn't require 2 clicks to click to switch types, but to a new player it might not even be clear that you can switch types. It should have like icons there or something. Yeah, like some kind of overview view. I'll show you the UI. What we change it to. It works a lot better, in my opinion.
Alo just asked, why don't kitchen need doors directly?
It's a good question. I'm gonna step out for just a minute. Actually, if you want to, Josh, after you answer this question, if you want to look at or throw a pizza in the oven, and then I got 20 minutes or so in me.
I'm definitely gonna wait for after the stream.
You sure? Okay.
Yeah, if I'm streaming, I'm gonna be streaming all time. I'm not just leaving the stream.
Fair enough. Hey, I've seen you. You were eating a sandwich one day while you were coding on the coding stream.
No, I ate before the stream. It only started once I finished.
Oh, that's right. It was a message. Yeah, it just started late. That's right. I remember reading something. I think you had a message up saying I'm eating.
Message was stream starting soon. The usual message, stream starting soon, but the sub message was I'm still finishing my burger. Be there in a second.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, I'll be right back. Sorry to interrupt you.
No problem.
And yeah, I got 20 or 30 minutes left in me. I think it's refreshing to be talking to people. Honestly, I'll be right back.
Perfect. So Elo, you just clarified. Many convention centers and the airports have their catering areas, a part of a hall where other staff could go through, etc. I mean, you can build it that way. There's nothing holding you back of it. Actually, no, it should work fine. The only point really is that we don't have specific catering things, and we don't have trucks or something specifically coming to kitchens. And there's, for example, no storage either. This little bit isn't really storage for a big kitchen. Bye, Hobbit. Thanks for coming by. So basically, we don't focus on it as much, and that's why it's the way it is. Game won't work if stairs are in the in zone. Do you mean in the kitchen zone? What does the game say if it's in the kitchen? Also, how come I'm on the wrong time format? Ah, because I selected the wrong time format. Elo, do you mean if there's a kitchen, if there's a escalator or a stairways in the kitchen itself? Because I think, I'm not quite sure. Does the kitchen need an enclosed space? Yeah, the kitchen needs an enclosed space, so to say it the other way around, the escalator and stairs will steal, in air quotes, the zone assignment. Like you can see here, the cafe zone is not on the escalator itself. So what you want to do is you want to have a kitchen that is completely enclosed, and on the outside of the kitchen, you want a staircase. So what you could do in this case is, I'm just going to show you with planning, you could have like 2 doors here, and then like an escalator or a stair down here, and just a little room for it. And you could go down even further and have a completely separate area for that. Why? Because you, like I said, escalators and stairs have take the zone out. It's the same for conveyors, for example. There's a couple of specific objects that take away the zone, and as long as the zone isn't completed, the kitchen doesn't form. So the kitchen, for example, needs a wall around it always. That may actually be legacy. So why does it need to be enclosed? I'd have to check the code on that one, but I guess it's a legacy thing. So I guess we can open it up to be less restrictive and have the kitchen work if you put a stairways in it directly. But to be fair, or just whitelist some way the escalator or stairways. But generally you want a full room for a kitchen. So in our minds, it's pretty much the kitchen has to be a full room. And the only way to have it be a full room currently is saying that it has to be an enclosed space. No problem, Halo. We always like to get down to what we are actually talking about. I mean, we are not the best at explaining ourselves sometimes too.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you. I guess everyone can hear you too.
Woot. Now you're getting me from my outdoor workstation. Hopefully not too loud. You might hear my children screaming.
So the glass door should work fine. By the way, Arthur, you didn't get the problem you wrote about was a completely different problem a way back. The part Alo means is, why does the kitchen need to be enclosed space?
Yeah.
And having which currently disables or doesn't allow having a stairway inside the kitchen.
I thought we fixed that part. I thought you could have it inside the kitchen as long as you surrounded the stairway with walls on 3 of its sides, on the back, bottom, and right. All the sides except the entry-exit side. I thought that we fixed that. I know there's some special handling code in there for that part.
That, even if that may work, stairways and escalators may suggest that you don't need a wall around it, since there's a small wall around it.
Yeah, and I remember we had a disagreement about how that mechanic should work when it originally got coded up. Staff stew. Okay, so I'm not sure 100% if it does or does not work. If it doesn't, though, the issue is because, like you were saying, that the stairways delete the zone, and so that's basically a technical issue. The question then I saw you asked was, why does it even need to be enclosed? Good morning, Redhead 3199. And why does it need to be enclosed? I guess technically it doesn't.
I think I
But
said it's pretty much just either legacy, because it had to be sometimes back, or it's because we think of the kitchen being one single room and it can't be just in the middle of the open.
yeah, it's the latter. And what ends up happening is you get these problems if you don't, where you've got like one tile that's not zoned in the middle of the kitchen, or you get like U-shaped kitchens, like circles with a big room in the middle, where it causes pathfinding logic problems. You also get situations where like a stove is halfway on the zone and halfway not on the zone. Life gets much simpler when we can just say for sure that the zone is one sector, and that's our high level abstraction, which is another way of saying a custom hierarchical A star or custom hierarchical graph representation. When we can speak everything in terms of that custom abstraction, then we can run like reachability queries and stuff much faster. So in this case, by ensuring that room is always going to be the full room and not partial or anything, it basically lets us quote unquote cheat a little bit. If that kind of makes sense, it makes the algorithms a little more optimal. I was never on your channel. I hope you have a very, very good evening, afternoon, night. And yeah, thank you for joining us. I hope everything is going well in your world right now, as well as it can be. Mika. Aloe asked if you could try a glass door just to see. I'm like 99.9% sure any door should work just as well as any
I'm
other.
100% sure that any door will work, and I'm currently testing it.
I won't
It
say
currently
100% because
it's
that'll
currently
jinx us.
saying it's currently saying requires enclosed space, but that's because the wall hasn't been built yet. So let's just wait for it to be built.
We get confirmation. I'll take Chick's word for it. No, don't worry though. Like that's the kind of stuff we'd rather like. The game is complex. We'd rather just test that kind of stuff and see if it. Like this is the kind of feedback we need to get. Don't feel bad. Mike Yakuba, nice of you to join us. And it may be weird, but hey, you go with whatever you think looks better. I've always said I'm not thrilled with the way some of the graphics came out in SimAirport. That is something the new game is going to have damn well different. It's going to be beautiful. I'm gonna do my damnedest to make that true. Yeah, glad you do like the graphics. To me, it's always been more about gameplay, and I kind of sacrificed graphics for gameplay the entire time we built the game. Like especially early, that was always my mantra was screw the graphics, make the gameplay great. If it's fun to play, who cares? But I probably went a little too far.
You can actually see the difference between the first versions and current version. It's definitely graphics improvements.
Yeah, and honestly, to be really fair to the artist, like the art, I think is actually really good. We just never put any like time into the technical side of making it beautiful. We really were. We spent many orders of magnitude more time making the graphics rendering fast than we did making it sexy. And yeah, I mean that's just in hindsight, it was a mistake, in some ways. But you live and you learn. That's just kind of what you do. I am also. This is so unrelated, but I don't have closed captioning on my main computer right now. I'm outside. I've got an outdoor workstation, which I often use for calls. But I have closed captions on, and YouTube's like live closed captioning is incredible.
Yeah.
I didn't know that it did live closed captioning.
Does it get my German accent?
It does. It's like it is very, very good.
Very well, we have to speak even more German then. I think it will not take it in then.
I think every time we talk now, I'm gonna put on YouTube so that I make sure I capture everything.
Ah, yes. Ah, ja.
I didn't realize that it did this for everything. I've seen
it's
news
really
broadcasts, but I thought they were transcribing it. It
no,
really is incredible.
it's definitely YouTube. They've improved it really, really good. It's still worse than having some people work it out and add it
Yeah, well, I
after
know
the
Google's
after.
good. Like, if you want to hear something really funny, you should see my 2.5-year-old. She'll scream. She screams, "Hey Google!" And then she spits out like a song name from Frozen or something. And she's got it figured out now, where she knows exactly how to say it in a way where Google hears her and she can get it to play. What's the damn song from Frozen? Man, I can't even think of it now.
Let it be.
Yeah, Let It Go,
I think.
or
Yeah, let it go.
yeah, she screams. She screams at 2.5-year-old, and Google can hear her, and it gets annoying quickly though, because she'll scream it over and over, and it'll just start playing over and over.
By the way, really quick, kitchen working with a specifically funkily placed sliding door and some wall covering the old space. I'm gonna make it fancy getting in. We've also got some questions over on Twitch. Abu Liniana? I guess it's my time to butcher names. Hi, I work in airport planning and construction. Any way I can help you guys?
How long have you been working in airport construction? And is Berlin on your resume?
Just say no.
That's awful. I'm sorry. Although I'm curious. Is that like do you specifically work on airport construction? Is that? I guess I always figured it would be like anything else, or maybe you do like airport design. I'm glad not for Berlin. That's good to hear.
Well, to be fair, you could be pretty good on designing and building some specific parts of even Berlin Airport, BER, but some other people may be failing and not getting
the
stuff correctly
implementation
built.
side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like.
Yeah. I was mostly kidding too.
For Berlin, it's mostly the fire stuff, fire safety stuff. So if you if you are the planner of, let's say, just your room usage or a space layout, then you're usually not the one, or then you weren't the one doing it wrong.
Yeah, I'm legitimately curious though. What if you don't mind saying, I'd I'd be interested in hearing what else, or like more specifically, construction expansion. So is that, and that's specifically what you do is airports, and so you work for a company or for yourself that you literally your clients are always airports. That's really cool. Is that like architecture? As a kid, I always said I wanted to be an architect. I like the engineering side, the logic side of it all. W Star, I saw you on, I think on YouTube too, huh?
Yeah, he's also on YouTube.
Yeah. Let it go, let it
Mm.
go. You guys be nice on YouTube, or we'll get my 2-year-old in here and she'll sing it up for you. She knows almost every word, just about. We
Also,
watch Frozen 2 5 times a week, probably.
also over on Twitch, Geek85 said, never been here either. Game is still on my wish list.
Why is it on your wish list? Should be in your library.
Yeah. Also happy to have you here. I hope you're still here, but since the message is a couple of minutes old. But welcome to the community, I guess.
Yeah, glad to see you join. I'm not sure, Abulian, exactly how you might be able to contribute. It's funny though, we've had contributions from like a little bit of everything. From air traffic controller did the ATC audio. I'm sure it wasn't the most fun day for him reading off scripts that we gave him to get it all right, but he did a really good job. We've got somebody from a major search and advertising company who has written up some incredible stuff for us. I mean, the contributions are like so varied and constant. So I'm not sure exactly how, but like if you have ideas, you're always welcome to email the forum. We're constantly looking at. And yeah, even just joining us, like I've been saying today, it's really nice for me personally I'm enjoying just having interaction with people. I'm sure most everybody here is going through similar to what's going on in the world, where we're kind of stuck at home. So it is, yeah, even just joining us here. Wesselman's. I'm not on the Discord as much as he is.
Are you even like using it at some point in time? I think you're
Yeah,
pretty much always offline.
I've got it. I click the invisible button because otherwise, and I get messages, but if I spent my day responding to messages on there, I would never get anything done. So I stay invisible. I try to respond when I can to the people that do message, but yeah, I try to take the target off my back, so to speak.
Also, W Star, Arthur was just speaking. The one, the one with the German accent is Joscha. I have a very good English, yeah. But I don't know. I don't remember the name from the Discord. So it's possible you're on the older Discord. We've got currently 2 Discords running. One newer and one older. The newer is run by pretty much the most active people of the community right now. So Alo, Chick, and a bunch of other people are online, helping people out.
It's got quite a bit of modder.
It's pretty much focused on modding.
Yeah.
But helping out whenever needed. And then there's the older one, which I'm actually not on. But I think that has been somewhat abandoned.
I'm still on it, I think. But
Yeah.
I think it's pretty quiet.
So the point of the SimAirport hub, which they call it, is it's a specific community-made Discord, and it's managed by the community. Pretty well done. And Arthur is partially sitting on it. I'm pretty much always online. I may not always respond, especially if I'm deep in code, but usually if you have a question, it's a really nice way to get stuff done fast.
Let's see. Mika on YouTube said, "Do you watch people play your own game, like Exact Chaos?" So many of you probably heard me tell a story, but I think the day or two after we first launched in 2017, it's like March 10th, maybe 9th. I'd never forget watching a guy named Sips play, and at the time, I didn't even realize people like watched other people play games. To me, it was kind of weird. It was like, why wouldn't they just play it themselves? I watched this guy play it. There were 2,000 or 3,000 people watching him play, and it was the most chaotic thing I've ever seen. The game was a buggy mess at the time, and you'd be lucky to get 40 or 50 agents. I remember being so embarrassed and just so, the emotions were running thick at the time. We do though. You were talking about Josh. You tuned in
Yeah.
and watched Green play the other day. I watched No Slack play the other day too.
Generally, if anyone mentions us on Twitter, since I'm mostly taking care of Twitter and generally all the social media stuff, I usually see it, and I really love to join pretty much any channel. And I had pretty much fun with all of them, having fun just talking and watching people play the game.
Yeah, I used to do it quite a bit more often. Even I would just go on Twitch and look for people playing. But yeah, same thing. If I see somebody playing on Twitter or they tweet that they're streaming, I always jump on. It's fun to watch other people play.
It's also really, really good feedback, especially if you see people playing who haven't played it yet.
Yeah.
I've encountered that sometimes, and finding stuff, especially in the tutorials, which we can't really play as a new player, or like a new player will. It's just extremely good feedback.
Yeah, even just seeing like how people move around or what they stumble with, it's like it makes it really obvious for us where problems are. In fact, I saw one watching you play today, the staff screen. I was like right away, man, I was annoyed by having to hit the drop down what could be one click. So what? Yeah, the new game. And I saw someone ask earlier, I think Aloe, if we've, with lockdown and everything, if we've been making a lot of progress. So Josh is pretty much dedicated to SimAirport. Michael and I have been mostly focused on the new game. I've kind of been going back and forth and guiding Joshua. But honestly, the last like 3 or 4 weeks, our whole team's productivity has been fairly low. It started with Michael being ill for about 2 weeks. Joshua wasn't feeling the best, and just watching the news, it's very distracting. I mean, and understandably so, for no matter where you live, it may be a different time. But yeah, so our attention has been getting drawn around. The new game, it is coming along though. The new game, it's starting to look pretty darn sexy. we originally were shooting to get it announced and released substantially earlier. Between the world news and SimAirport getting released, we've pushed it back a little bit, but it's on the horizon. It'll definitely be shipping before Q3. So you'll see details and info about it pretty soon, probably a month out ish, I would guess. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. If you really wanted to figure it out, I probably could. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna come down to is it a good game? It's definitely gonna be prettier. I hope it's as much fun.
By the
It's
way,
a little more design oriented too, maybe.
with regard to what it is, do you mean via the name and stuff?
Yeah, I'm sure that
Yeah,
sure it could be figured out.
just a fun fact. I actually knew the name even before working on SimAirport.
Yeah, well,
It's
yeah.
out there. It's just you have to dig pretty deep to find it.
Yeah, and even then, the proof will be in the pudding.
Also, I actually talked about it on Discord because no one actually poked us about it, but we had a spoiler in the stream with Green.
Yeah, it was a pretty small one, but we had in that stream, there were some graphics from,
Don't tell them too much. I'm
yeah.
still hoping some of the guys are gonna looking back into the stream and maybe finding it. So if you find it, let me know on Discord. I'd be happy if you find it.
Yeah, I was shocked that Green noticed it. It's pretty small.
Yeah.
But it's on the horizon. It is coming. It is going to be a little different, but it's a similar game. It's a management game.
It's
full
not
3D.
It's not gonna be Airport CEO.
It's not going to be Airport CEO. It's not going to be airports. Yeah, I would love to just like come on, say it. I want you to be able to see it though, because I don't want to set the expectation poorly. And you won't be able to shut me up if I start talking about it. It's on the verge though. It is not no. I don't want to say no aircraft at all, but no, it's not about planes or airports. There could potentially end up with some kind of aircraft in it.
Possibly one that doesn't especially need a long runway.
Yeah, it would probably not be a fixed wing. Probably not a fixed wing aircraft.
Well, some fixed wing aircraft can actually depart on really short pads.
Well, not with a very high success rate. I don't know if you get me in one of those Osprey or anything.
Your game Fortnite 2D. No, it's definitely not gonna be anything online or massive multiplayer.
Although it is something, it was one of our kind of stretch goals. I'm a very competitive person, really to a fault. I'd love to get some kind of competitiveness in it. But it's kind of, yeah, we'll see. It's tough to do without ending up like SimCity 2013-ish, where it's kind of a BS mechanic. I'd love to have it be, we've talked about maybe like a weekly leaderboard type thing, or actually I thought what although I don't like the way they DLC'd it. Not Planet Coaster. What's the zoo one that they did?
Planet Zoo.
Yeah, I thought their breeding mechanic is really intriguing for a management style game.
I haven't
But I
seen
don't
it.
like the way it's.
How
What's
is
that?
it working?
So my understanding, I haven't actually played it. My understanding, but I've read quite a bit, is that you can basically you could buy and sell different animals for breeding purposes on a live market. And when they initially released, there were some issues with it economically because of the way they had. Basically, you had to farm out. You had to farm the low-level animals to make enough money to buy the higher-end animals. But the goal is along the lines of you want to get a good breeding lion, for instance, or something along those lines, and then you can sell it on a market. And I'm not 100% sure. My guess, though, is they're monetizing the hell out of that. And I'm not really interested in that part. The part that I like is the economy, like the community-based economy. I think that aspect is pretty sweet. And really fairly unique, too. Incorporating something like that into our game a little tougher. I've had a few ideas on it, but yeah, it's a little tougher because the supply and demand of what they've got going is interesting.
Stick us on.
TB Flash. I apologize. I did see a question too on YouTube. TB Flash asks, update on roads on higher levels or bridges. So I believe that we've got that slated for the overhangs stuff, right? We talked about it at least.
Yeah, it's pretty much at the same point. It's all done in one.
Yeah. So the plan is that was the plan. Yeah, is to include allow roads up and down, or sorry, up with the overhang update.
Yes, definitely. We talked about it being similar to just having grass. And you can build a road ramp up, and then you have a road on level 1 or level 2 even. And on the same note, we will also allow having stuff on a foundation, so I could make a terrace over here. So for an example, instead of having pickups and drop-offs separated like this, or -1 and G, you could have pickups on G, and then have like an extension over here and have the road go up. That's taxiway, that's too big. And road would go up, and you had drop-off on level 1 or 2 in this case.
So short answer is it's coming. It's going to be coming in this cycle too. I see Snickers AUS on Twitter. There's no real money required, but it does allow you to buy whatever the credits are with real money too, though. Is that wrong? There's no real money at all? If that is true, then I love it. Oh, no kidding. Good for them. That's very cool then.
Pretty good system then, I guess.
Yeah, well, I just conceptually it's adding a supply demand layer makes a ton of sense. Really cool idea. I know they had issues at launch because it was basically like a deflationary spiral, I think, maybe inflationary. But just conceptually, I loved the idea. I had, and incorrectly apparently, I assumed that they allowed you to use real money to buy credits or to buy the better animals or something. knowing that's not the case, I like it even more.
By the way, there would be an interesting system for SimAirport, having some community involvement, but I guess it's maybe too late now to perfectly implement or make sense of it. But basically, you could have some sort of system where the airlines in the game actually fly from one airport to another airport for different people.
Yeah, we talked, I think Michael and I talked a little bit about that concept, about doing some kind of leaderboard concept as well for SimAirport, and we've talked about similar for the new game. The problem is it goes back to creating supply and demand. That's why I really loved it, what they did in Planet Zoo. It really is brilliant and fairly innovative. How to do that in a game where it's not quite as commodity based. Yeah.
Michael Eldridge over on YouTube has 2 questions. One for me and one for you. The first one, this game could easily transfer to a ferry or train version. Would be fun. I actually talked some of it about it on Discord. I missed it this year, but maybe we can do it for next year. An April 1st, April Fool's version of the game, where SimAir, the AIR, the air part is just stroked through with a pencil, and the plane is replaced by a ship or a ferry, and instead of having an airport, you just have water channels, and the aircraft aren't actually aircraft but ferries. So instead of having an SimAirport, you have SimPort.
I remember us talking about it. Yeah, or you brought it up. Michael has brought up. I think this is probably a year or two ago, doing a seaport style thing too. Maybe that was just me and you talking about it about a year ago.
I don't know, possible. I mean, it's highly possible. We talked about it last year for April Fools, but I think we were all in pretty bigger updates than that time. And this year around, we had the stability issues, which we wanted to get fixed over having some April Fools stuff. So maybe next year.
Yeah. And then your second question, aircraft emergencies. So originally, this was like a given. If you'd asked me this back in March of 2017, I would have said absolutely. And the algorithms we chose for aircraft pathfinding were specifically chosen to allow for it. Now it's a little bit less doable. The only place they could have an emergency would really be on their runway or on the gate. I've always thought it's dumb. We should at least have go-arounds. And I would love to see foreign object debris type stuff on runways checks, that kind of thing. Possibly you could get, I mean, this would be a rare one though, but maybe uncontained engine failure type landings where he lands on the runway and takes it out of service for a little while, maybe. I don't know though, like start to get into Black Swanish type stuff. Aloe, see you later. Enjoy the pizza. Chick, you as well. We'll probably be calling it here pretty soon too. It's a little over 2 hours. I'm getting a little hungry too. Yeah, W Star mentions on Twitch, if an airplane flies between 2 airports managed by 2 players, if one player causes a delay, does it arrive late? And that gets at the heart of why it's even tough to do that kind of multiplayer. You can't expect both players to be playing at the same time, and so you couldn't even do delays like that. It really would have to be more of like a supply demand. That's why I really think that the way they did it in Planet Zoo is it's ingenious. It's purely economy going, economy driven, which is neat. When they first released, though, it was kind of broken because you had to farm some certain type of pig or something. You had to like farm them basically in order to be able to afford the next best animal type, something along those lines. Again, I haven't played it, but just conceptually, I love the idea.
To be fair, though, on the idea itself, it's just an idea. Usually, we have a couple of stages on stuff. Usually, we have a lot of ideas, like way too many ideas we could we'd like to implement, but can't always get in. And you can see we talk about a lot of ideas over on Steam, but also on Discord and on the chat on live streams like right now. But ideas may not always be completely thought through, so they need some thinking or some further concepting.
Sometimes they're just like, we've implemented a lot of stuff where we had the idea, we made it happen, and then it wasn't actually fun.
Well, that's stage 2. So stage 1, it's some idea, we talk about it. Then comes stage 2, where we actually put it on the list of, yeah, we want to definitely get that in. And then stage 3 is, I'd say, is we actually have it in the game.
And then stage 4 is, I would say, it actually makes it out, because there are times when we totally intend to do it, and we do it, and it just, for whatever reason, doesn't pan out. There have been some of the bigger examples, like general aviation. Yeah, it is, though. That whole process plays out in many different ways, and it's even some of the stuff that's really simple often can take multiple days to go from idea to the first iteration even.
By the way, for JVR Omar, he asked, can you see the detail of the luggage on the conveyor belts? And I've just opened a couple up. As you can see, the bags are actually following the belt and transitioning from some source to some destination.
Michael Aldridge on YouTube. Yeah, I always thought military would be cool. And yeah, that was part of why we did add the airline aircraft super early, like really early. I know there are some military jets on there. I've always wanted to see VIPs land and require like airport lockdown stuff. That was something I kind of foresaw earlier on. And then I know, yeah, cargo DLC, people are saying on YouTube. It's certainly a possibility. It's not something we're going to commit to right this moment, but I know there's interest. We also now understand that the interest is material. And that may sound stupid, but until we put out the DLC, the supporters pack stuff, the frequent flyer stuff, it's a little tough to equate interest, verbal interest, to dollar interest, which equates to us being survivable. So yeah, it's not out of the question. It's definitely something we're going to look at. There is more I want to do in the base game though, still, even beyond stability.
Well, you've got a couple of points coming already.
Hell, the list has doubled in size in the last 2 hours.
Last
That
2
happens.
hours?
That happens every month.
Yeah. I think I've said over on Discord at some point. It's really sad that we don't have a AAA title team size. We could just add so many new features and so much new stuff in such a short time. Because the ideas you guys come up with, there's so many great ideas, but there's just limited time for everything.
Yeah, and that's something we're part of the problem with that too, is that when we launched SimAirport, the game was not in very good condition, and there were a lot of core things we had to like really rethink, or like it took us about a year to get the foundational elements, a little over a year, really solid that we could just build on top of them. And so I mean, it took a lot of learning on our part. SimAirport's the first game we ever made, and before we began on it, we really had no idea what in the hell it took to make a game. So that's something we're definitely going to avoid as much as we can with the new game, and be able to just focus on features. It kind of stinks because it means if we had been at today's point when we released SimAirport initially, like we could have added a whole lot more in 2 or 3 years. But that's kind of the nature of the beast. Who knows? Maybe in 2 or 3 years we release SimAirport 3D. The thought has certainly occurred to us. I've heard people mention it.
By the way, since we're on the topic, someone over on the Discord, he may not be online, so that's why he didn't ask again, asked about why we chose Unity over, for example, Unreal. And I couldn't obviously answer it.
Yeah, so it's a good question. In hindsight, I complain about Unity all the time. I have some theories on what's wrong with Unity. I think Unity is a great engine. I think that Unity's main problem is leadership. I think that they don't finish very much. It's kind of some of the similar issues I see at Google, where nobody ever got promoted for maintaining a product. You get promoted by building a new feature and shipping it.
Before you go down that path, though, that's not the question.
I know, and
why Unity over Unreal?
I'll get back to that very quickly. So to answer your question more directly, I think that for all of its issues, I still think that Unity is probably the best choice, and we'd probably make the same decision today. And the reason we chose Unity at the time was mainly because Unreal. So to me, that there were two realistic choices at the time. We actually looked at some other engines, like believe it or not, we looked at like Phaser, which is a JS library.
Was Godot already up high on that point?
No, it was not a viable option at the time. There were a handful of others that were probably just not real viable. Monogame was one that maybe we should have looked at a little closer at the time. But basically, it came down to Unreal and Unity. Between those, the support for Unreal didn't look as great to us, and the cost was high. And so we went with what we believed to be the lesser two evils. And the reason I started off saying that's how I feel about Unity is if we had to make the same decision today, I think we'd end up with the same conclusion for all its issues. I think it's probably the lesser of the evils. And I actually think they're very well positioned. They're just kind of struggling internally, leadership wise.
Monogame, using something like Monogame, to be fair, I think Unity is pretty much based on Monogame too, right?
Yeah, and that's part of why it may have been a better choice for us because the biggest issues with Unity, for instance, are you end up having to do everything that the engine gives you, quote unquote, out of the box. You end up having to rewrite it anyway because it's too slow. And so, and really the problem is that Unity doesn't devote the time to, like, they get the feature out and then the guy's not going to win any awards or get his promotion by making the feature better. He's going to, the top dogs, the best engineers move on to the next feature. And that's kind of what I was getting at, is that they've got all the pieces, and monogame is largely the same thing, but with at a lower level. And what we end up using is essentially our own custom framework built on top of monogame and less Unity. There are a few areas where we can make use of Unity stuff, but we found the same thing happens every time we start using a Unity feature heavily. It just doesn't scale, or you don't have control over it. That is the one thing that makes me rethink it, though, is with Unreal, it's not an issue. You can see the source, but it's cost prohibitive is the real problem.
So basically, especially for smaller games, it's really easy to work with Unity, but scaling to bigger things or more agents or more happening may not always work great.
Yeah, and I mean, I could go on forever about Unity specifically, but yeah, it's kind of I don't think there's any like one right answer. They all require time input, and you're gonna have quirks and just shit you got to work around and figure out. I think you can achieve about the same thing though in damn near any engine that compiles, that has any modern compiler. Also, personally, I didn't know it at the time, but C# has become one of my favorite languages to work in, and I really didn't want to work in C++.
It's because C# is the best language to work in.
It's definitely, it's a highly productive language for, and I come from a background of languages that are much higher level and also very productive. It's a really good middle point of balancing explicitness and productivity.
It's really interesting, by the way, to see the style of C# over the versions changing or improving, and stuff like I specifically know that you didn't pick up most of those newer styles, but some stuff I just used because I'm usually working on the. If I've worked before working on SimAirport, I've just worked on the newest version of C# in .NET Framework, so I knew the newest stuff and the new syntax, and I know that on some points you actually took onto the new syntax.
Yeah, well, and that's part of why I do enjoy C#. It's moving quickly, but there are other languages out there that have come a lot further too. Michael said, "Would you ever add terrorism to the game?" He says on YouTube. No, it's something wouldn't even give a thought to adding, honestly. It's such a black swan event that you wouldn't. Even fire was tough for us to, because it's reasonably rare. It also was a good starting point, is why we did eventually, but there's zero chance of seeing terrorism in SimAirport.
That's also why basically agents don't get hurt by fire. Prison Architect, by the way, does it. Agents get hurt, so prisoners and staff get hurt by fire. But we don't. SimAirport doesn't have... Well, it has more or less has feelings via needs, but the agents don't have health.
Yeah, I mean, there's no, you're not going to see any death happening. And it's not that I'm opposed. We're going to, with the new game, I think we're going to get a little bit more into some of those emotional, yeah, it's a good way to say it, maybe emotional, emotion-evoking events, and a little bit, I'm willing to get a little darker. We've made it this far with SimAirport though, and I don't see the value really, and yeah, I guess in general to me it's like it's a fun game. People can play hundreds, thousands of hours of the game, and we've done that while keeping it reasonably clean, cleaner than I ever thought than we ever set out to. At this point, may as well leave it that way. I don't think that'll be the case for the next game. I think it'll be a little darker, not like gruesome wise, but I'm not afraid to shy away from the darker aspects going forward. We're not learning as much on the job, so it's not like we can let our creativity run a little more and not be so concerned with the technicalities as much. With SimAirport, it was constantly, we were tackling so many technicalities for the first year or two. Even really, it's just been this past year that we've been able to be fully creative the whole time.
Also, a question by Michael: is full custom security system somewhere on the pipeline?
Is it on the roadmap?
I remember it either is or was at some point, like customs at least.
I think we have kind of taken it off. We've talked about it in the context of the deplaning splitter object, which is on here. I think you and I, we talked through it a little bit.
It's possible we talked about it on stream too.
Yeah, I want to say it's probably really not. If anything, I think we talked about the fact you could do secure area baggage claim, and beyond that, it's really just kind of a checkpoint for incoming There's no real action or like behavior tree or like decisive change in what the agents end up doing, and so it didn't seem to be. It seemed a little more modern territory, I guess.
You'd also have some sort of intercontinental or like international zone. Further than the usual security zone.
Yeah, but then we get into adding another bit.
Yeah.
To the reach. It quickly becomes a lot for not much gameplay difference.
I think the only interesting part of it would be if people got rejected and they'd have to be ferried back.
Yeah, and that's where we get into like the short life cycles. That's the kind of stuff we want to do more of with the new game, is a little less focus on, actually a lot less focus on macro. SimAirport became much more of a macro game where, I mean, you're shuttling. How many passengers you got going through here a day?
It's currently pretty low. Well, today, yesterday It was 12,000. It's gonna be about
Yes.
12,000 again.
So at some point you got to kind of balance, and this is a fairly small airport he's got going, at least in terms of like turnarounds. But you got 12,000. What's the interaction one passenger has? How much meaning does that have to the gameplay? And originally my vision was that it would be substantially more than it ended up being. Now it's much more of an agent modeling simulation, which I guess that's really what I wanted. I didn't see it at the beginning, that how little focus, how much they were at odds, the micro and the macro, and that they really definitely are kind of at odds.
I'd say let's do the last couple of questions in a quick fire and then call it a day.
We're gonna burn something down.
Nah. Pretty lucky with no fires today.
I was gonna say,
enabled
do you
it.
have it off?
I think I enabled it. I definitely enabled it. So possibly just really lucky.
What's your thought about Airport Tycoon 3 over here on YouTube? It was a great game. It was buggy though. I recall you would get to a certain size where there would be problems. It was a beautiful game for its day though.
I can remember playing it some long time back, and I barely knew any English, and I only had the English version, so I was pretty much stuck up on getting no bigger planes than like small turboprops.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that was back in the day of like AMD Durons or those.
Oh yeah, by the way, if you want to play it, you can always try to play it in a virtual machine with whatever Windows XP installed. Usually it works. Otherwise, there's probably, well, the game might be too new for some emulators, but there's usually a way to play it using a VM.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure people have. I've seen in the Tycoon Reddit, people have been able to play it semi-recent. My problem with it always was like, it almost felt like more of a design thing because it didn't. The operation side was anything but flawless. There were a lot of bugs, and this was back before you really would see patches. And yeah, I mean, it was interesting game. I remember playing it quite a bit. I also remember being angry though at it, and that there were some holes in the way it worked. Like the aircraft didn't pathfind. I believe they would like turn invisible or just show up, or it just said, yeah. I mean, it was incredible for its time though.
Possibly even a bit ahead of its time. If it's
Yeah.
been made later, it would probably be better off.
Private flights. So the game does ship with 2 small aircraft. My favorite aircraft to fly, the Cirrus SR-22, and it also ships with your garden variety Cessna 72. There are no airlines for those by default. They were intended for a general aviation feature set that we never did release. We actually built it. It wasn't very fun, and we've talked about it on previous streams. But the aircraft are included. I believe you can find some mods on the workshop that will give you pseudo airlines that have those aircraft. And if you go on the workshop, you'll be able to find lots of other small private aircraft too, like turboprops and small jets. I'm a big fan though of the SR-22. Very fun aircraft to fly. What do you think? Ready to eat?
Yeah, I guess. It's the last plane leaving for the day.
Are we gonna start a fire?
No. No fire today.
Oh,
Next time, maybe.
next time.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Once we
Ne-
have notifications, then
Oh,
we'll know
yes.
about the fire.
No, notification is a lovely thing. You can click on them and you jump to it. So if a fire is breaking out somewhere and you click on the notification bubble, you'll be moved with the camera to it, so you actually see it.
That is it. Off he goes. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope we didn't bore you. Hope everybody is staying safe wherever you're at. I know it's unusual time for most of the world, but yeah, I personally very much enjoyed being able to connect with you guys today. We've got more coming this month for the game, and we'll probably be streaming probably towards the end of the month again, something like that. But yeah, we'll definitely continue streaming. And then Josh, you've been streaming on the mod streams as well.
Yeah. If you guys wanna come join the mod streams, we are usually not announcing those on Steam, but if you're on the Discord or want to join us on those, you can just subscribe to the YouTube channel or follow us on Twitter. No, not yet. No, not Twitter. Twitch. And you'll get a notification when we stream. I stream. It's usually just me, and we're doing about 2.5 hours just pure programming, getting features in.
Yeah. So if you're modding or if you just want to learn more about how the code works, how the game, you're curious, it's a super cool thing. You can ask questions and he generally can look up anything you're curious about. Cool. All right, guys. Well, yeah, thank you very much, and hope everybody stays safe, and we shall see you next time.
See ya. Bye bye.